They say every girl has a price. My fated mate, Alaric Von Roth, the golden boy of the Crescent Peak pack, decided mine was exactly 2 million marks and a one-way ticket to oblivion. He didn't just reject me, he sold me. He looked me in the eye, called me a traitor, and watched his parents drag me into the night while he pocketed the gold. It was a cold, hard transaction. I was the commodity, and he was the seller, trading our destiny for a bag of coins. Do not let him see you tremble, Saskia. I whisper the words to myself as I step into the grand ballroom of the Von Roth estate. The air is thick with the scent of expensive champagne and the musk of 100 wolves, all shimmering with power and ambition. It's the night of the selection, an event every girl in the city of Eisenberg supposedly dreams of. They dream of being picked by the alpha. Me? I only dream of surviving until morning. You look like a lamb at a slaughter. My Aunt Marta hisses, her fingers pinching my arm with cruel force. Smile, or I'll give you something to really cry about when we get home. I force my lips into a painful curve, a mask of compliance I've worn for years. Today, I turn 18. My wolf, a restless spirit I've barely gotten to know, is pacing inside my mind, sensing the danger, the opportunity, the sheer overwhelming energy of this place. I try to blend into the shadows, a wallflower in a worn-out dress, but it's impossible. Across the room, the crowd parts like the sea before a king. Alaric Von Roth, the 21-year-old heir to the Crescent Peak pack, steps onto the dais. He is terrifyingly handsome, with eyes like sharpened flint and a presence that seems to suck all the oxygen from the room. I've watched him from afar for years, nursing a secret crush that feels more like a private, painful bruise. It's a childish fantasy. He's an alpha heir. I'm a nobody. I never, ever expected him to even look at me. But then, his head snaps in my direction. His nostrils flare. The sapphire blue of his eyes bleeds into a molten, predatory gold. The scent. Alaric roars, his voice a deep vibration that shakes the very floorboards and rattles my bones. Who is she? His gaze locks onto mine, a hunter spotting its prey. In that single, electrifying moment, the world tilts on its axis. He knows. I know. We are mates. The fated connection I'd only read about in stories slams into me with the force of a physical blow. Hope, terrifying and beautiful, blooms in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, this is my escape, my salvation. His parents, the reigning Alpha and Luna, approach. Their faces are masks of cold fury. Whispers erupt through the crowd. This is not how the selection was supposed to go. Alaric was meant to choose from the pre-approved daughters of powerful families, not the orphan girl from the city's slums. I'm dragged before him, my heart hammering against my ribs. He stares down at me, his golden eyes unreadable. This is it, the moment my life changes forever. But not in the way I dreamed. Hours later, I'm not in a bridal suite. I'm in a dark room, facing Alaric and his parents. The Alpha's words are like ice. A nobody is not fit to be the Luna of Crescent Peak. We have a reputation to uphold. And then, the offer is made, not to me, but to a rival pack's Alpha, a cruel man known for collecting rare wolves. 2 million marks. The price for a fated mate. The price for me. I look at Alaric, my eyes pleading, begging him to say something, to stop this madness. He just looks back, his expression a cold, hard wall. He opens his mouth and utters the words that will haunt my nightmares for years. She's a traitor. Sell her. He watches, completely unmoved, as his parents drag me away. He watches as the gold is counted and placed in his hands. He watches me being sold like cattle, and does nothing. Fast forward to years. I'm no longer Saskia, the rejected mate. I'm just a girl, a nobody student trying to survive the semester at a university far from Eisenberg. I escaped that night, but the scars, both visible and invisible, remain. I live in anonymity, my wolf dormant, my past buried deep. But the universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. Because my new advanced biology professor, the one everyone is talking about, yeah, you guessed it, it's him. Alaric Von Roth stands at the front of the lecture hall, more powerful, more dominant, more devastatingly handsome than I remember. And he's looking right at me. That old familiar shock of recognition passes between us, but this time, it's laced with pure undiluted hatred on my part, and something dark and possessive on his. He's not here by accident. This classroom has just become his personal hunting ground, and I am, once again, his prey. He thinks he can bully me into submission, using my grades as leverage. He corners me after class, his voice a low growl. You ran. You have no idea what you've done. He's arrogant, infuriating, and determined to make me pay for a crime I never committed. He even manages to catch me on video, using my powers in a moment of panic, a secret I've kept hidden from the world. He holds it over my head, a digital chain to ensure I don't run again. He thinks he has me trapped. But here's the sensational part. The more he tries to break me, the more he pushes, the more a different kind of truth begins to dawn in his eyes. He sees the strength I've forged in the fire of his betrayal. He feels the bond between us, not as a weakness to be discarded, but as a phantom limb that aches constantly. The regret is a shadow in his golden eyes. He starts to realize he didn't just sell a girl, he shattered his own soul for a few pieces of gold. Now, the game has changed. He's trading the blackmail for offers of private lessons after class. He tries to get close, to explain, to apologize. He even shows up with a diamond ring, begging me to fix the bond he so callously broke. He wants my forgiveness? He's going to have to do a hell of a lot better than that. Because while he was busy playing the big, bad alpha, something else was happening. Something he never counted on. A legendary power, the power of a white Luna, was waking up in my bloodline. A power strong enough to challenge any alpha, to rewrite pack law, to forge my own destiny. He thought he sold a lamb, but he's about to discover he unleashed a wolf queen. And trust me, I'm not for sale anymore. My price now is justice. And it's a price he will pay. If you love stories about rejected mates who find their inner power and make their bullies crawl back on their knees, you are in the right place. This is a story of revenge, redemption, and the unbreakable power of a woman who refuses to be broken. Stick around for this full 2-hour epic. You won't believe the twists and turns waiting at the end. Make sure you subscribe to wolfpackromance.co so you never miss a single moment of the drama and a single chapter of Saskia Adler's rise to power. The hunt is on, but this time, she's the one in control.
The music stopped. Every eye in the ballroom turned toward Saskia. Alaric didn't walk, he stalked. He moved through the elite families like a wolf through high grass. He stopped inches from Saskia. The power radiating from him forced her to tilt her head back. You, Alaric whispered. He reached out, his hand cupping her jaw with a grip that felt like a claim. You are my mate. Saskia's heart hammered against her ribs. I'm nobody, Alpha. I'm just an orphan. You are the Luna of this pack, Alaric declared, turning to the crowd. We marry at the turn of the moon. This is my vow. The room erupted in cheers, but Saskia saw the faces of Alaric's parents. They weren't cheering. They looked like they had just tasted poison. 3 hours later, the celebration was over. Saskia sat in the dim kitchen of her uncle's house, her mind spinning. The door slammed open. Uncle Gunter and Aunt Marta marched in, followed by 2 figures in black cloaks, the Alpha's parents. We will not have a scavenger sitting on the throne, Helga von Roth said, tossing a heavy leather briefcase onto the wooden table. The latches clicked open. Saskia gasped. It was filled with more money than she had seen in her entire life. Gold bars and stacks of high-value marks. Take the girl. Take the money. If she is in this city by sunrise, we will hunt you both down, Friedrich von Roth commanded. No. Saskia stood up, her chair screeching. Alaric claimed me. You can't do this. Aunt Marta grabbed Saskia by the hair, yanking her back. Shut your mouth. We're finally getting paid for the burden of raising you. Gunter grabbed the money. He didn't even look at Saskia as he dragged her toward the back door. Alaric will find me, Saskia screamed as she was shoved into the back of a waiting van. Alaric will think you took the money and ran with a lover, Helga said, her voice like ice. He will hate your name until the day he dies. The van sped off into the night, leaving the Crescent Peak behind. The lesson for today is simple. Everything has a price. The voice was deeper than Saskia remembered. It was darker, like a blade dragged over gravel. Saskia sat in the 3rd row of the university lecture hall, her hands trembling under the desk. 2 years had passed. She was 20 now, a ghost living in a new city with a new name. She thought she was safe. She thought the Von Roths had forgotten her. She was wrong. Alaric Von Roth stood at the front of the room. He wasn't wearing a suit today. He wore a black sweater that clung to his broad shoulders and dark jeans. He was the guest professor for the advanced biology track. Welcome to Westbug University, Alaric said, his eyes scanning the room. When his gaze hit Saskia, the air left her lungs. He didn't look happy to see her. He looked like a man who had spent 700 days planning a murder. Class dismissed, Alaric said after an hour of torture. Except for Miss Adler. Stay behind. The other students filed out, whispering. Saskia felt like she was standing in the path of an avalanche. She gathered her books, trying to move toward the door. Alaric was there before she could take 2 steps. He slammed the door shut and locked it. The click echoed through the empty hall. Adler. Alaric sneered, leaning down into her space. Is that the name your boyfriend gave you? The one you spent my family's money on? I didn't take any money, Alaric, Saskia said, her voice cracking. They kidnapped me. They told me you'd kill me if I came back. Alaric laughed, but there was no humor in it. He grabbed her chin, his fingers digging into her skin. I saw the photos, Saskia. I saw you smiling in that getaway car. I saw the bank account in your name. You sold our bond for a few pieces of gold. It's a lie. The only lie is you, Alaric growled. He moved closer, pinning her against the heavy oak door. He smelled like wood smoke and expensive whiskey. His wolf was right under the surface, making the air around them vibrate with raw energy. He slid his hand slowly under the hem of her skirt. Saskia gasped, her heart jumping. It wasn't an act of love. It was an act of ownership. His thumb pressed into the soft skin of her thigh, a bruising reminder of his strength. You're going to pay back every cent, Saskia, Alaric whispered into her ear. I'm the professor here. I'm the alpha here. And for the rest of this semester, I am your master. You can't do this, she breathed. I can do whatever I want to a traitor, Alaric said. He let go of her abruptly. I will see you at my office tonight at 8. If you aren't there, I'll have your little friend, the boy who walks you to class, expelled by morning. Bastian has nothing to do with this, Saskia shouted. Alaric's eyes flashed gold. He exists. That's enough for me to ruin him. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. He unlocked the door and walked out without looking back. Saskia sank to the floor, her legs finally giving out. She was trapped again, but this time, the man she loved was the one holding the keys. The door is unlocked, Saskia. Walk in before I lose my patience. Alaric's voice drifted through the heavy mahogany door of his private office. Saskia looked at her watch. It was 8:01 p.m. She had hesitated for 60 seconds, and already, she could feel his irritation vibrating through the hallway. She pushed the door open. The office was dimly lit, smelling of old parchment and Alaric's intoxicating scent. He sat behind a massive desk, illuminated only by a single green-shaded lamp. He didn't look up from the papers he was grading. Sit, he commanded. Saskia sat in the hard chair across from him. I'm here. Please leave Bastian alone. He's just a student. He's a good person. Alaric finally looked up. His eyes were cold, devoid of the warmth she remembered from the night he had claimed her. You seem very concerned about him. Is he the one who helped you spend the gold? Did he enjoy the lifestyle my family provided for you? There was no gold for me, Alaric. I told you my uncle stole it and dragged me away. Alaric stood up. He moved around the desk with the silent grace of a predator. He reached for a shelf and pulled down a small, sleek digital camera. He set it on a tripod, aiming it directly at the chair where Saskia sat. What are you doing? Saskia asked, her voice rising in panic. Insurance, Alaric said. He clicked the record button. A small red light began to blink. You see, Saskia, I know how you play. You like to act the victim. You like to run to the authorities and cry about the big, bad wolf. This video will show the world exactly what you are. He walked toward her. Saskia tried to stand, but he slammed his hands on the armrests of her chair, pinning her in place. Stay still, he growled. His hands moved to the top button of her blouse. Saskia's breath hitched. She tried to swat his hands away, but he caught both of her wrists in one of his massive palms, pinning them over her head. Alaric, please don't do this, she sobbed. I'm just showing the world the truth, he whispered. With a sharp tug, he ripped the front of her shirt. Buttons skittered across the floor like tiny teeth. He pulled the fabric down, exposing her shoulders and the lace of her bra. Saskia squeezed her eyes shut. hot tears burning her cheeks. He didn't stop. He pulled the straps of her bra down, exposing her chest to the camera and his burning gaze. The air in the room felt freezing against her skin. "Look at me," Alaric commanded. Saskia shook her head, her hair falling over her face. Alaric leaned in, his nose brushing against her jawline. He inhaled deeply. To her horror, she heard a low, rumbling sound in his chest. His wolf was humming. "Even now," Alaric hissed, his voice thick with a mix of hate and desire. "Even after what you did, your scent still calls to me. It's disgusting." He leaned down and licked the line of her jaw. Saskia shivered, a traitorous spark of electricity shooting through her body. The mate bond was screaming at her to lean into him, even as her mind screamed at her to run. Abruptly, Alaric let go. Saskia slumped in the chair, clutching the remains of her shirt to her chest. Alaric walked back to the tripod and grabbed the camera. He checked the screen, a dark smirk playing on his lips. "Now," Alaric said, his voice returning to a cold, professional tone. "You belong to me. If you miss a class, if you speak to that boy, or if you try to leave this city, this video goes live. You'll be the girl who sold her soul, and then tried to frame an alpha for it. Do you understand?" Saskia couldn't speak. She could only nod. "Good," Alaric said, pointing to the door. "Get out. And fix your clothes. You look like a mess." Saskia stumbled out of the office, her heart shattered. She didn't see the shadow standing at the end of the dark hallway. She didn't see Bastian watching her with a look of pure, cold calculation. "I told you she was a waste of skin, Alaric. Why do you keep her in your sights?" Alaric ignored the voice as he entered his penthouse. He was exhausted. The scent of Saskia was still stuck in his throat, making his wolf restless and angry. He wanted to break her, but every time he touched her, he felt the urge to pull her into his arms and never let go. He walked into his bedroom and stopped dead. Isolde, a daughter of a rival alpha family, was lying in his bed. She was completely naked, her blonde hair spread across his silk pillows like a golden web. "What are you doing here, Isolde?" Alaric asked, his voice a low warning. "Your mother sent me," Isolde said, stretching like a cat. "She said you were lonely. She said you needed a real woman, not a ghost from your past." Alaric looked at her. She was beautiful, wealthy, and approved by his pack. She was everything Saskia wasn't. But when he looked at her, he felt nothing. No spark. No bond. Just a cold, empty silence. He thought of Saskia in his office. The way she looked with her eyes full of tears, the way her skin felt under his hands. His anger flared again. She had a boyfriend. She had taken the money. She had laughed at his pain. "Fine," Alaric growled. He didn't kiss Isolde. He didn't say a word. He moved with a mechanical, brutal efficiency, using the physical act to drown out the sound of the mate bond screaming in his head. He treated the encounter like a battle, a way to prove to himself that he didn't need Saskia. When it was over, he didn't stay in the bed. He stood up and grabbed his wallet from the nightstand. He pulled out a thick stack of bills and tossed them onto Isolde's chest. "Dress yourself and get out," Alaric said. Isolde gasped, clutching the money. "Alaric, how could you?" "I'm not marrying you, Isolde. I'm not marrying anyone. My mother can send 100 girls, and I'll treat them all the same way. You're a transaction. Nothing more. You're obsessed with that orphan," Isolde shouted, scrambling out of the bed. "She's a traitor. Everyone knows it. Get out," Alaric roared, his eyes flashing gold. Isolde fled, leaving the money scattered on the floor. Alaric stood by the window, looking out at the city. He felt like a monster, but he didn't care. He was going to make Saskia Adler suffer until she begged for death, and then he was going to make her stay anyway. His phone buzzed. It was a text from a private investigator he had hired. Subject: Bastian Thorn. Occupation: unknown. Connection to Adler. "Hi. I think he's hiding something, Alpha." Alaric gripped the phone until the screen cracked. "I'll kill him," Alaric whispered to the empty room. "I'll kill them both. You can't keep hiding in the shadows, Saskia. He's going to find out eventually." Bastian's voice was a low whisper as he caught Saskia in the university library. She flinched, pulling her sweater tighter to hide the missing buttons on her blouse. The memory of Alaric's office felt like a brand on her skin. Find out what, Bastian? Saskia asked, her eyes darting around the quiet rows of books. He already thinks I'm a thief. He already thinks I'm with you. Bastian stepped closer, his expression softening into something that looked like pity. He reached out to touch her shoulder, but she flinched away. I found your uncle, Bastian said. The world seemed to stop spinning. Saskia grabbed Bastian's forearm, her fingers digging into his jacket. Gunter? Where? Is he okay? He's in the industrial district. He's scared, Saskia. He told me the Von Roths didn't just pay him to take you away. He said someone else was following them. Someone in a gray suit. Saskia felt a chill crawl down her spine. A gray suit? What does that mean? I don't know yet, Bastian said, his voice dropping an octave. But you need to get out of Alaric's sight. He's blinded by his wolf's rage. If he finds Gunter before we do, he'll kill him. And the truth will die with him. I can't leave, Saskia whispered. He has a video. He'll ruin me. Bastian's jaw tightened. Then we steal the video. Meet me at his penthouse tonight while he's at the Pack Gala. I have the keycard. How do you have his keycard? Bastian paused, a strange flicker in his eyes. I have my ways, Saskia. Do you want your life back or not? I shouldn't be here. This is a mistake. Saskia stood in the silent, glass-walled living room of Alaric's penthouse. The city of Eisenberg stretched out below like a sea of diamonds. It was a palace of cold marble and sharp edges. A perfect reflection of the man who owned it. Just find the camera, Saskia. I'll check the study for the hard drives, Bastian commanded. Saskia moved toward the master bedroom. Her heart felt like a trapped bird. The scent of Alaric was everywhere here. Heavy, masculine, and intoxicating. It called to her wolf, making her feel like a traitor to her own survival. She found the camera sitting on the nightstand. Her hands shook as she reached for it. Looking for this? The voice didn't come from Bastian. It came from the doorway. Saskia spun around. Alaric was leaning against the doorframe. He wasn't at the gala. He was wearing a dark suit, his tie loosened, looking every bit the lethal alpha he was. Alaric. I can explain, Saskia gasped. Can you? Alaric walked toward her, each footstep sounding like a death knell. You break into my home with your lover. You try to steal the evidence of your own shame. You're consistent, I'll give you that. Where is Bastian? Saskia asked, looking past him. Your friend ran the second he heard my car in the garage, Alaric sneered. He stopped inches from her, his shadow towering over her. He left you behind, Saskia. Just like you left me. He didn't. He was trying to help me. Alaric grabbed her waist, pulling her flush against his chest. The heat was immediate. Help you do what? Lie more? I should hand you over to the council right now. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. I found your uncle tonight, Saskia. Before I came home. Saskia's breath hitched. Is he alive? He's alive. For now, Alaric said, his eyes turning a dangerous gold. He told me a very interesting story. He said he never got the money. He said a man in a gray suit intercepted them and took it all back. Saskia stared at him. That's what Bastian said. Alaric, please, you have to believe me. Alaric's grip tightened. His face was a mask of conflict. The rage was still there, but beneath it, a raw, agonizing hope was trying to break through. I want to believe you, Alaric whispered, his voice breaking. But every time I look at you, I see the girl who broke my soul. He leaned down, his lips ghosting over hers. The mate bond flared, a white-hot explosion of need that threatened to consume them both. Suddenly, the front door of the penthouse exploded inward. A flashbang grenade detonated, filling the room with blinding light and a deafening roar. Saskia was thrown to the floor. Through the ringing in her ears, she saw men in tactical gear swarming the room. And at the center of them stood the man in the gray suit. The reunion is over, the man said, leveling a silver-loaded pistol at Alaric's head. Alpha Von Roth, you're under arrest for high treason against the Accords. Bastian. Saskia gasped, looking at the man in the gray suit. It wasn't Bastian. But the man turned. And the resemblance was haunting. Not quite, darling, the man said. I'm his father. And you're the bait. Don't you dare touch her, Alaric roared. The sound was more beast than man. Despite the silver-tipped rifles pointed at his heart, Alaric stepped in front of Saskia. His body was already changing, his shoulders broadening, his fingernails lengthening into obsidian claws. The man in the gray suit, Julian Vane, didn't look impressed. He gestured with his pistol. The Council of Oversight doesn't care about mate bonds, Alpha. We care about the 300 million marks that vanished from the city vault the night you claimed this girl. Saskia peered from behind Alaric's massive frame. He didn't take that money. My family was framed. The paper trail says otherwise, Miss Adler, Julian said, his eyes as cold as a winter morning. And now we have the Alpha on video forcing himself on a student. Between the theft and the scandal, the Von Roth legacy ends tonight. It was a setup, Alaric hissed, his voice vibrating with a low, dangerous growl. You sent Bastian to get close to her. You fed me the lies about the boyfriend. Julian smiled thinly. Bastian is a dedicated agent. He did his job perfectly. He made you hate her so much that you destroyed your own reputation trying to break her. Saskia felt a wave of nausea. Every moment of the last 2 years, the running, the fear, the bullying had been orchestrated by the man standing in front of her. Even Bastian, the only person she thought was her friend, was just a hunter in a student's hoodie. Alaric, Saskia whispered, reaching out to touch his arm. The window. If we can get to the terrace. Go, Alaric commanded, not looking back. I'll hold them. No. I'm not leaving you again. Saskia, run. Alaric lunged. He didn't wait for them to fire. He moved like a blur of midnight fur and muscle. The room exploded into chaos. The tactical team opened fire, the crack 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 of silver rounds filling the air. Alaric slammed into the lead guards, throwing them through the glass partitions of his study. Saskia didn't run for the door. She grabbed a heavy bronze statue from a pedestal and hurled it at the man in the gray suit. Julian ducked, the statue shattering a mirror behind him. Kill the wolf. Julian screamed. Secure the girl. Saskia scrambled toward Alaric. He had been hit. She could see the black, charred edges of silver burns on his shoulder and thigh. He was slowing down. The silver was a neurotoxin to their kind. It was paralyzing him. Alaric, get up, she cried, sliding across the marble floor to reach him. He shifted back into his human form, gasping for air. His skin was deathly pale. He grabbed her hand, his grip weak. Saskia. I'm sorry. For everything. Save it for later, she snapped. She looked up and saw a second team entering from the foyer. They were trapped. But then the lights in the penthouse flickered and died. The emergency red lights kicked in, bathing the room in a blood-colored glow. Over here, a voice hissed from the kitchen. Saskia squinted through the smoke. It was Bastian. He wasn't wearing a tactical suit. He looked disheveled, his eyes wide with panic. Bastian. Saskia yelled. You traitor. I didn't know he was going to kill him. Bastian shouted back, waving them over. The service elevator is open. If you want to live, move now. Saskia looked at Alaric, then at Julian Vane, who was reloading his pistol. She made a choice. She hauled Alaric's arm over her shoulder, her small frame straining under his weight, and dragged him toward the kitchen. Keep his head up. He's swallowing his tongue. Saskia shoved Bastian away as the beat-up sedan sped away from the city limits. Alaric was draped across the back seat, his breath coming in ragged, wet gasps. The scent of burnt hair and ozone filled the car. Where are we going? Saskia demanded, her hands covered in Alaric's blood. My family has a safe house in the Black Forest, Bastian said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. My father won't look there because he thinks I'm on my way to the extraction point with you. Why are you helping us? Saskia asked. You lied to me for months. You helped them frame us. Bastian looked at her through the rearview mirror. Because I saw the way he looked at you in the office, Saskia. He's an arrogant jerk, but he loves you. My father doesn't love anything. He's going to trigger a purge. He wants to wipe out every wolf in Eisenberg and take the land. Saskia looked down at Alaric. His eyes fluttered open. They weren't gold anymore. They were a dull, pained blue. Saskia. He wheezed. I'm here, Alaric. Stay with me. The desk, he managed to say. The bottom drawer. A red file. What's in the red file? Proof, Alaric whispered. My father. He didn't pay your uncle. He paid the council. They've been working together since before we were born. The car suddenly swerved. A black SUV slammed into their rear bumper. They found us. Bastian yelled. Saskia looked out the back window. 2 more SUVs were closing in, their headlights blinding. They were on a narrow mountain road, flanked by ancient pines and sheer drops. Bastian, drive faster. I'm trying. The engine is. A bullet shattered the back window. Glass rained down on Saskia and Alaric. Alaric's wolf pushed through one last time. He sat up, his teeth bared in a snarl, and lunged toward the broken window. Alaric, no. You're too weak. He didn't listen. He leaped from the moving car, shifting in midair. The massive black wolf slammed into the hood of the lead SUV, sending it spinning off the road. It tumbled down the embankment, exploding in a fireball that lit up the forest. But Alaric didn't get up. He lay in the middle of the road, a dark shape against the snow. Stop the car. Saskia screamed. Bastian slammed on the brakes. Saskia jumped out before the car had even fully stopped. She ran back toward the black wolf. Alaric, get up, please. She reached him just as the second SUV pulled to a halt 20 feet away. Julian Vane stepped out. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket anymore. He held a silver-bladed hunting knife. You always were a romantic, Saskia, Julian said. It's a shame. You would have made a beautiful widow. He walked toward them, the blade gleaming in the firelight of the wreckage. Saskia stood over Alaric's body, her arms spread wide. She felt a strange heat rising in her chest. Not fear. Not pain. Something older. Touch him, Saskia whispered, her voice sounding like 1,000 voices overlapping. And I will show you why they call us the Crescent Peak. Her eyes, which had been brown her entire life, suddenly burst into a brilliant, blinding white. Touch him, Saskia whispered, her voice vibrating with a power that cracked the ice on the road. And I will show you why they call us the Crescent Peak. Julian Vane laughed, but the sound died in his throat as a shockwave of pure energy rolled off Saskia. The air around her began to shimmer, turning into a freezing mist. Her brown eyes were gone, replaced by twin stars of blinding white light. Julian raised the silver blade. You're a freak, Saskia. A mutation. You aren't even a wolf. I am the moon's mercy, Saskia said, though the words felt like they were being spoken through her by something ancient. And I am her fury. Saskia didn't shift into a beast. Instead, the white light expanded, forming the ethereal shape of a giant wolf made of frost and starlight around her human body. When she swung her hand, the spectral wolf's claw followed, slamming into the SUV with the force of a falling mountain. The vehicle crumpled like a soda can, sliding backward into the trees. Julian lunged, swinging the silver knife. Saskia caught his wrist. The silver didn't burn her. Instead, the metal turned brittle, freezing until it shattered into 1,000 harmless shards. How? Julian gasped, clutching his frozen hand. No wolf can touch silver. I am not just a wolf, Saskia said. She pushed him back, and the force of her aura sent him flying into a snowbank. Behind her, Alaric let out a low, pained groan. The white light began to fade as Saskia's strength ebbed. The spectral wolf vanished, leaving her standing in the snow, shivering and exhausted. Bastian ran from the car, his eyes wide with terror and awe. Saskia, you're a white Luna. Those are legends. They haven't existed for 500 years. Help me get him in the car, Saskia wheezed, her vision blurring. Now, Bastian didn't argue. He hoisted the unconscious Alaric into the back seat while Saskia collapsed into the passenger side. As they sped away, Saskia looked at her hands. They were still glowing faintly, the veins under her skin pulsing with silver light. The red file, Saskia muttered before she drifted into darkness. We have to find the red file. Wake up, Saskia. We don't have much time. Saskia opened her eyes to see the wooden beams of a cabin ceiling. The smell of cedar and medicinal herbs filled the room. She sat up, her body aching as if she had been hit by a train. Alaric, she asked, her voice raspy. He's alive, Bastian said, pointing to the hearth. Alaric was sitting in a chair by the fire. He was shirtless, his chest wrapped in thick bandages. The black veins of the silver poisoning had receded, leaving only faint red scars. He looked at Saskia, and for the first time in 2 years, his gaze was filled with something other than hate. You saved me, Alaric said. Saskia looked away, the memory of his office and the blackmail video still stinging. I saved my mate. That doesn't mean I've forgiven you. Alaric winced, and it wasn't from his wounds. I know. I was a fool. I let my pride and my father's lies blind me to the truth of our bond. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. We don't have a rest of our lives yet, Bastian interrupted, dropping a heavy, rusted metal box on the table. I went back to the city while you two were out. I broke into the Von Roth family vault. I found the red file. Alaric stood up, leaning heavily on the table. He opened the file and spread the documents out. Saskia leaned in, her eyes scanning the names and dates. It wasn't just my father, Alaric whispered, his face turning pale. Look at the signatures. The Council of Oversight, the mayor, and Saskia, look at the last name. Saskia looked. Her heart skipped a beat. Gunter Adler. My uncle? Saskia asked. He didn't just take the money. He signed off on the execution of my parents. Your parents weren't nobodies, Saskia, Alaric said, his voice soft. They were the previous alphas of the North Ridge. They were killed so the council could seize the mountain's lithium mines. Your uncle was their inside man. The truth hit Saskia like a physical blow. Her entire life, the poverty, the cruelty, the orphan status, was a lie constructed by the people who had murdered her family. And now, those same people were using her to destroy Alaric. They're meeting tonight, Bastian said, checking his watch. The council. They're going to announce the dissolution of the Crescent Peak Pack and the sale of the land. Once the papers are signed, Alaric, you'll be a rogue. They'll have legal permission to hunt you down. Alaric looked at Saskia. He held out his hand. We have the proof. But we have to go into the heart of the city. We have to walk into the council chamber in front of every pack leader in Germany. Saskia looked at his hand. She thought of the girl who had been dragged away in a van 2 years ago. She thought of the white Luna power sleeping in her blood. She took his hand. Her fingers sparked against his, the mate bond roaring back to life, stronger than ever. Then let's go, Saskia said. It's time to show them what happens when you wake the white wolf. If we fail, Saskia, they won't just kill us. They will erase us from the history of this city. Alaric's voice was steady as he adjusted his black tie. He stood in the back of a darkened van, blocks away from the Eisenberg Council Hall. He still looked pale, but the fury in his eyes had replaced the weakness of the silver. Saskia adjusted the heavy collar of her coat. Beneath it, she wore the red dress from the penthouse, now torn and stained, but she wore it like armor. They already tried to erase me once, Alaric. It didn't stick. Bastian handed Saskia a small earpiece. I've looped the security cameras. You have exactly 3 minutes to get through the side entrance before the council begins the vote. My father is already inside. He's carrying the silver blade he tried to use on you. Stay in the car, Bastian, Alaric said. You've done enough. I'm doing this for my own soul, Alpha, Bastian replied, though he didn't look Alaric in the eye. Saskia and Alaric slipped out of the van. The council hall was a fortress of Gothic stone and modern glass. Armed guards, men from the oversight board, stood at every pillar. Saskia felt the hum of the white Luna power beneath her skin. It felt like liquid moonlight, cold and waiting. They moved through the shadows of the service corridor. Saskia's heart thundered. Alaric, wait, she whispered, pulling him into a dark alcove just as a patrol passed. He pressed her against the stone wall. For a moment, the mission disappeared. He looked at her, his hand cupping her cheek. I spent 2 years hating a ghost, Saskia. If we make it through this, I want to start over. No more blackmail. No more lies. Just win the night, Alaric, she said, her voice soft. Then we talk about tomorrow. They reached the heavy oak doors of the grand chamber. From inside, the booming voice of Julian Vane echoed. The Crescent Peak has failed its duties. Alaric Von Roth is a rogue, a predator who has shamed our laws. By the power vested in the Oversight Board, I move for the immediate seizure of the North Ridge territories. Alaric looked at Saskia. He kicked the doors open. The sound was like a cannon blast. The 50 pack leaders inside the room spun around. Julian Vane froze at the podium, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. The Crescent Peak hasn't failed. Alaric's voice roared, echoing off the high ceilings. It has been betrayed. Seize them, Julian Vane screamed, pointing a trembling finger at the entrance. They are fugitives. The guards moved, but Alaric didn't flinch. He walked down the center aisle, throwing the red file onto the central table. The documents slid across the polished wood, stopping right in front of the High Elder. Read it, Alaric commanded. Read the signatures of the men who murdered the North Ridge Alphas and stole 300 million marks to fund this Oversight Board. The High Elder, a man as old as the city itself, put on his spectacles. The room was deathly silent as he flipped through the pages. His eyes widened. He looked up at Julian, then at a man sitting in the front row, Saskia's Uncle Gunter. Gunter tried to bolt for the exit. Stay where you are, Gunter. Saskia's voice rang out, vibrating with a frequency that made the glass chandeliers overhead rattle. She stepped forward, her eyes beginning to glow with that terrifying, ethereal white light. The air in the room dropped 20 degrees. Frost began to crawl up the legs of the council table. Saskia, don't, Julian snarled, reaching into his coat for his silver pistol. You're just an orphan. Nobody will believe. I am the daughter of the North Ridge, Saskia shouted. The white light exploded from her. It didn't hurt the other wolves, but it hit Julian and his guards like a physical wave. The silver weapons in their hands glowed red-hot before shattering into dust. Julian fell to his knees, clutching his chest as the pure Luna energy forced his wolf to submit. Saskia turned her gaze to Gunter. Her uncle was cowering against the wall. You sold your own blood for a briefcase of gold, she said, her voice echoing with the weight of her ancestors. You watched as they took me away. You told Alaric I was a traitor. I had to, Gunter whimpered. They would have killed me too. The High Elder stood up, the red file in his hand. The evidence is undeniable. Julian Vane, Gunter Adler. You are stripped of your titles and your citizenship. You will be judged by the High Pack laws. This isn't over. Julian screamed as the council's own internal guards tackled him. The board has resources you can't imagine. Then we'll be ready for them, Alaric said, stepping up beside Saskia. He took her hand, and this time, the glow of her white light didn't fade. It wrapped around his arm, turning his own golden eyes into a shimmering, reinforced amber. The pack leaders stood, one by one, bowing their heads, not just to the alpha of the Crescent Peak, but to the white Luna who had returned to lead them. 1 hour later, balcony of the hall. The chaos had settled. The police had taken Gunter and Julian. The city was quiet, the moon hanging full and bright above the forest. Saskia stood on the balcony, looking out at the mountains. She felt Alaric step up behind her. He didn't grab her chin or pin her down. He stood at a respectful distance. The council has recognized your lineage, Saskia, Alaric said quietly. The North Ridge is yours by right. You're a queen in your own territory now. Saskia turned to look at him. And what about the Crescent Peak? I'm stepping down, Alaric said. Saskia blinked. What? I don't deserve the title. Not after how I treated you. I'm going to spend time rebuilding the pack as a guardian, not an alpha. Unless. He paused, his heart rate spiking so loudly she could hear it. Unless my Luna needs a consort. Saskia looked at the moon, then back at the man who had been her greatest crush, her greatest enemy, and her fated mate. The road ahead was long. There were still board members in the shadows. But for the first time in 2 years, the bond felt clean. Don't get ahead of yourself, Alaric, Saskia said with a small, sharp smirk. You still have a lot of apologies to get through. Alaric smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. I have all night. Good, Saskia said, pulling him in by his tie. Start now.